And we're live. My special guest, the flyer is up. As you can see, it's MaryLiz Bender. And hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Faders Up with Trovarsi. My special guest, MaryLiz Bender, is a composer. She's a vocalist. She is a co founder of Cosmic Perspective. And basically, that's about space music, introducing music with space, outreach, interviewing astronauts. And yes, right now it's actually a weird show. I'm just going to, talk about it for a moment. Um, she's having a little bit of technical difficulty. She just actually made a move. And one of the things about the Cosmic Perspective is they do a lot of video and live videoing at launches, at the various launch. So she just actually moved to Texas, and with a move, sometimes comes connection issues and what have you. So she is actually trying to join us right now as we speak. But please, if you have any questions, I do have. I mean, become a friend of mine, and we just have a lot to talk about, and I have a lot to share about her. So if you do have questions, please drop them in the chat. And one of the things amongst the Cosmic Perspective that we're going to be talking about this evening is the Mew Mew gloves. And I'll just take a moment to talk about that up to see if she can jump in here. I think we may have her. So let's just add her really quick. Hopefully she's okay, but I'll keep talking while she joins us. But yeah, we'll be talking about the Mew Mew gloves. And if you're not familiar with that, it's actually quite fascinating. I've been following this specific MIDI controller for over a decade now. And I was initially introduced to it by seeing one of Imogen Heap's performances. And I started following her, and I did actually have the pleasure of seeing her perform live with these gloves. And essentially, she maps them with, I believe she uses Ableton, and she can conduct a whole performance and control bringing instruments in and out, playing chords, and all these other fascinating things that you can do with it. And I don't want to give away too much information because right now she is trying to connect. But actually, I think maybe what we could do is let's sit back and enjoy her performance, and let's watch her performance, and then you can maybe get a better understanding of what I'm talking about when I mention these fascinating gloves, which we'll get into. So this is the performance by MaryLiz Bender. That was fantastic. I think she's able to join us at this moment. All right. I know she's having a little bit of technical difficulty right now. So I'm just going to talk about her performance a little bit. And actually, Space Racer is going to join me too, because she had the opportunity to work with MaryLiz Bender on some of her analog space mission, as they both did a similar mission, had the same mission, but on two different occasions, and they both did separate research. So, yes. All right. So basically, what she was using was the Nemu glove, and I actually have one right here. If you could take it to full screen for me. So, there you go. While we're waiting for her to join. And this is it. It's I know somebody asked, I think it was Electronic Sounds Audio. By the way, thank you everyone for joining me. Even I know we're having some technical difficulties. I do apologize. I'm glad at least I was able to share with you her performance, because she is a phenomenal performer, and this is the glove that she's using, and I think we're gonna just keep trying to bring her in here. There you are. All right, awesome. You have your gloves on too. Great. I'm like showing. Thank you. I'm just gonna let you. I think you're muted, so I'll just unmute really quick. And I'm going to have you just jump right in and tell them what you did with your performance with the gloves, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I think that my connection is still shaky. I am so sorry. This has never happened before. But if you can hear me.
Yes. I told them that you recently moved in close to in Texas, and gave a little bit of history about the Cosmic Perspective and how you do the live video filming from various launches. So you moved. I'll let you take it from there.
Yes. So yeah, I'm here in Starbase, Texas, and apparently the internet leaves much to be desired, and there's not much cell coverage here. So please forgive. I'm working on a new hotspot right now. But just to explain a little bit, so in the song, which I'm calling At Home, it's actually a really simple song. I improv'd the whole thing because just over the weekend, I got here with my last truckload of items and then set up my new music studio. And so I just kind of decided to keep it simple. And when I opened up Ableton, I was going to remix an old song of mine. But then, I don't know, I just downloaded Ableton 11. Sweet. Woo! And so I finally had enough, more instruments to appease all my desires. And so I was playing around, and I just found a couple sounds I really, really liked and threw them in. And I actually have the session up right now just to kind of remind myself, because I just started playing around and I fell in love with the sounds that were happening, and I improv'd the whole thing. So that's not typical for me. I like to jam like that, but then I like to really work on a track and produce it. But I literally was just feeling it, hit record, and started kind of dancing around. So the gloves are very, very versatile. They're so powerful. I feel like they're the most natural instrument I've ever used in my life. So they have on them a little one mechanical button here, one mechanical button here. You see me pressing those and you'll see the LED lights in the video change color. That's actually device feedback that I program in. So for example, whenever I want to do a loop, you'll notice I'll do some kind of gesture and then the button will turn a bright red. And that indicates to me your loop has started. And then when I end the loop, I turn that color off back to the other color. That indicates, of course, that I'm now playing the loop. Or, you know, you can program it to do absolutely anything.
Right,
but the cool thing is that, and I'm sorry, is my connection okay?
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going while we have you inside.
Awesome.
I want everyone to know what we're doing here.
Awesome. Yes. And so the gloves, they're so cool. I cannot express enough how they have opened up an entirely new world of creation for me. Inside each finger is a bend sensor, and they're like very malleable, of course, but hard. So I can kind of tap it and feel this awesome piece of material here that actually picks up every single bend and every knuckle. So I can get really granular with what I feed into Glover, which is the software they come with, which just acts as an interface to Ableton or whatever your DAW choice is. But it's so awesome. It means that I can say, okay, when I make a fist, I want you to hit the kick, which is what I did at some point in the song. Now, usually,
I'm going to zoom in on you for just a moment. Keep
sure.
going, just so people can see your.
Cool.
There you go.
Yeah. So the bend sensors here, what I was referring to, every single knuckle is picked up, and you'll see in the video, I made sure that my monitors were available, like they were visible. So you can go back after this and rewatch and kind of look at what was happening in Ableton and what was happening on the left in Glover, which is the interface that these speak to. And you'll see that it picks up when I'm making a fist, when I'm making a one finger point, so forth. And I actually, the Glover software uses machine learning code. So it knows that I teach it how my fist gesture is compared to someone else's. Right. So every time you go in, you calibrate it. Oh, I just realized you have a glove, and you might have done a video already. Did you?
I have not done I have not put a video out yet. You are my reveal, I guess, for us using this glove, for me to getting into using this glove. No, this is fantastic. This is exactly how I wanted to share it, and you are doing phenomenal things with it.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit more. I didn't mention about this 0G music. Talk a little bit about that, please, if you don't mind, because I know you're doing the gloves with that journey as well.
Yeah, and that actually is a good way to explain why sometimes I keep it really simple. So for example, there's an IMU on the gloves here. That's a motion sensor. And that's what I was just about to say is, like, you know, really you can use the gloves in the traditional way to reproduce traditional music. Like, you know, you can do air guitar, you can do drums. There are actually hits that you can program in there with either a wrist flick or a drum hit. So usually I would do a kick like this. But I've been thinking a lot more lately about what it would be like to make music in weightlessness. I've actually thought about this for about a decade. But I've been thinking more practically about how the gloves will be used in weightlessness, because that's something that is upcoming. So about, I don't know, 8 or 9, I think it was 9 years ago, when Imogen Heap first presented the gloves at a Wired conference. Great performance if you want to look it up. In 2012 it was. She was doing it along with a Connect program, or a Connect system. So she was like dancing around, and I just fell in love with the way that she could move out from behind the keyboard and dance her way through song. And I thought to myself, oh my God, these compact little things, they're MIDI controllers. They also communicate through OSC. So you can actually program them to do just about anything. They can control lighting, they can control music, robotics, whatever. And I just realized oh my gosh, I can conjure up an entire orchestra with these gloves. And it's really simple to switch scenes in Glover. So you can say, I want to bring up this section, the B section, or I want to bring up the violins, or I want to bring up the rhythm section. And then you can kind of reuse the same gestures based on what scene you're in. And it dawned on me, that's the perfect instrument for space travel. And so I've been obsessed with this idea ever since then. And continue doing research, learn the programming language for the gloves, all sorts of things. And then actually, for a few years, my band took off and I accidentally built a gigantic drum kit instead. So I went the opposite direction for a while. I was going to make my own gloves because Imogen had outsourced, or she had put out a blog post where she open sourced them and told you how to make them. But I kind of went away, did my own thing, went on some US tours for 4.5 years straight, and then got into the space industry. And I started to interview astronauts about their experience and how impactful and transformative it is, and began to realize that it's such a powerful experience up there. And all of the astronauts were coming back and saying to me, I don't have the language to describe what I saw or felt. And, it's a famous line that a lot of some of the earlier Apollo astronauts said. Frank Borman from Apollo 8 was the first to say it. He said, we should have sent poets. And so while I was doing these interviews and thinking a lot about transformation and then the way that we communicate with each other, with ourselves, the way that we tell stories and transfer emotion, it just kept coming back to me. I want to get those gloves into space because they're so great, even for non-musicians. They're so natural. You can set them up to make something beautiful as they're floating around. So that idea has been with me for a long time, but it's only in the last year become a reality. And I've actually been talking to NASA about sending these up with astronauts. I myself want to take my own pair of, so I can translate it through my own experience. And so I'm keeping a lot of my current projects fairly simple because I'm trying to think of how a non-musician astronaut might go into weightlessness and how can I set them up for success? Like, how can I make sure that they're making something that's beautiful to them, but they still can express themselves? And so this isn't related to this song so much, but I am thinking like maybe not using drum hits because I'm not sure how the accelerometer is going to work in 0G. And so I'm trying not to make use of that kind of stuff, but like gestures. And so how can I make rhythm with gesture as someone's floating around? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm thinking a lot about apps that really inspire me, like Brian Eno's Bloom app. Have you ever experienced that on the iPhone?
I've heard of it, but I have not tried it yet.
It's cool. I mean, it's like an beautiful ambient instrument where you tap around on the phone screen. Everything kind of lives inside of a scale, and then it loops and kind of there's like a fading delay that happens, so you can kind of dance around with it. And I'm trying to make something a little more like that with the gloves so that when they're, twirling around, flying through weightlessness, that they can feel like, oh, I'm not hitting a wrong note. I feel good about it, but I want to just like really spin here and I want to hit a lot of chimes or something.
Right,
and so
right.
that's where I'm at with experimenting. But then of course, for me personally, I have so much going on in my life right now. It's such a dynamic time, a lot of chaos, a lot of excitement, a lot. And so I've been really loving having the gloves and the latest version of Ableton because I feel like it's opened up my world a little bit. And I'm able to be in a really small house, in a really small studio, and expressing myself in totally new ways. And then, of course, I know I did kind of hear what you were saying while I was having connection issues, but I heard you talking about my high seas experience a little bit.
Yes, talk a little bit about that? Like,
Sure.
because you brought the gloves with you.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah. So
For
I
somebody in
went.
the chat that said Bloom is great. One of our viewers. Thank you everyone too for tuning in and hanging out with us. I just want to pause really quick and just make sure if you guys have questions, please pop them in the chat so we can pop them up so she can read them there and get all your questions answered. Thank you for being here. And yes, continue. Talk about high seas and what you did with the gloves in high seas, please.
Yeah.
I know, but I want to share with everyone because it's just like, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was so surreal. So I went to High Seas, which was, I mean, maybe folks know because you may have talked about it before. But it's
Space Racer, just to give some people, the viewers, some background. So that's the trip that Space Racer, she did the analog Mars mission, and yeah, she was doing research there, and then during her time of research, she was actually able to collect sound samples, which was fantastic because then we were able to chop them up, and she chopped them up and released them in a sound pack. And they, yeah, I've had an opportunity to use some of them in my last performance, and yeah, they sound great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool. I'll have to go back and rewatch that. Yeah. So it's a beautiful place to do a lot of experiments on what is it going to be like when we do move out to Mars. And we're in an isolated environment in a 1,200 square foot dome, perhaps with 5 other people. And I went there specifically to do research on the human experience and very much was focused on how I might use my gloves to connect with myself, my crew, and people back on Earth. And I was highly surprised. My expectations were such that I was going to do these grandiose projects. I had it all lined up to do an Earth to Mars delayed album with one of the engineers of the gloves, Kelly Snook. She's an amazing artist. And I think you're going to learn a lot from her as you get involved in the community, the Glover community. She's awesome. And I was so excited about doing this, whole album, this gloves album during my 15-day stay on this mission. And I had a rude awakening when I realized that there's just no time in the day. It's like I have a new empathy and sympathy for astronauts, especially the NASA astronauts that go to the space station. There's so much time dedicated to just maintenance, so much time dedicated to writing reports. You don't get a lot of downtime. So I might have had 30 minutes on the days when there was power. And then, of course, we lost power because there was a lot of cloud cover and our solar panels just didn't collect enough photons for enough energy. And so I couldn't really use my gloves when we were without power.
Comments, please, because it was all solar, correct?
Yeah, solar. Yeah, all solar power. And so that was rough on the days when I couldn't, even charge the gloves or connect them or connect my computer. And so when I did, though, when we were charged and I was able to fire up the gloves, it was impossible, I mean, without them, to think about how I could express myself in that environment. Because you got to think, you're in a 1,200 square foot tiny little dome with 5 other people. There's always a lot of noise going on around you. It's not an ideal environment for like singing into a microphone, So it was nice to have my headphones in and then just like this world of sound in my ears. And I was just going to town, and it doesn't take up any space, It's just in the exercise area, just going to town. And so I was able to build the base for a bunch of tracks. And the cool thing is that though I didn't get to do the album like I wanted to, I was able to, once I got back, coincidentally, the Perseverance rover landed on Mars. And for the first time ever, it had microphones on it. And it was recording the Martian wind once it landed on the surface, which
it's amazing. Space Racers in there Amazing.
She's like, yeah, I know. So exciting. And now we've got little sounds of zaps of the laser on the rover zapping rocks, which is mostly for scientific data to understand the composition of the rocks. But it's so cool to be able to have this audio now and play with it. And so one of the tracks that I wrote while I was there, called Together, I actually decided I'm going to put the Martian wind to this track. And at the exact same time, a coincidental thing happened. I was on Twitter. Someone said, "Oh my God, Sound from Mars just came back. I bet you're going to be the first one to make a song from it." I wasn't. It was my dear friend Chelsea Goad. But I said, "Yeah, it's great." She must have been just like ready, you know?
Yeah.
That was great. But so, you know, there was just this really beautiful thread. It made me realize the value in Twitter, because sometimes I forget. But it was, you know, someone had mentioned me. I said, yeah, I'm on it. And then someone else said, oh my God, I bet Test Shot Starfish is on it too. And so it turned into this whole thing that actually birthed a collaboration between myself and Test Shot Starfish. And these are the guys that make all of the music for SpaceX's webcast. Beautiful electronic stuff. Nice. And so we're working on a collaboration now. So my Martian Gloves track is going to have Martian Wind overlaid on top of it. And it's a collaboration with those guys that we will release on Yuri's Night on April 10th. So I'm super excited for that.
We'll definitely drop a link for Yuri's Night too, just so people can find that. And when I update after the show, I'll make sure all your links are in the description as well. But I did notice, I did hear the sample, and a lot of people that I know, like in our modular synth family, I heard them like using the samples with their modular and things like that, which is like tells me it's just fantastic. I feel like there's this surge of interest of people being interested in space, and I don't know if it's just maybe my awareness is more heightened because my wife is so involved in doing these analog space missions and working on these other projects that I've just seen more hyper aware. But I don't think that that's just it. I think that people are like revitalized and excited about especially since the launch. And please forgive me, I don't remember when was it in May of?
Oh, you're close. I think it was late July, actually, the Perseverance launch.
Yes. And so then it was just like, I feel like that sort of rejuvenated people's interests even more, that in space, which I think is great. So
you're so right. I mean, as someone who documents rocket launches, I've seen an incredible surge, especially lately. Now, the Perseverance launch had a lot of eyes on it. I think NASA did an incredible job of communicating. JPL, the engineers at NASA JPL are so amazing. That team is awesome, and their communications team is especially great. So I've noticed that anytime they have a big launch, it's almost always makes its way out into the public more so than many of the others. So that never really surprises me. But I will say that, now that we've got NASA commercial crew sending astronauts from here, from the US again, has revitalized our local interest. And now that Starship is being born in my backyard, I mean, I'm seeing like numbers on our YouTube videos skyrocket. I'm so sorry. I keep using that pun on accident. I don't actually mean to be doing that. I'm that much of a nerd. But I have noticed that people are getting genuinely emotionally excited and invested. And I think it's very timely. It's warranted. Because something that even the people that are getting excited don't realize is how fast-paced this is happening, how fast-paced this whole process is. In the next decade is when we will be sending the first materials off to another world to set up permanent bases. In this decade, it's going to happen. And so, like, it's kind of, the news is trickling out and there's a lot of disbelief, but that's very exciting. I mean, it pushes the bounds of the question, what does it mean to be human? And so of course everyone's gonna get excited or curious about what that's all about.
So with that, you mentioned your move and everything, and so give a little bit more background about what Cosmic Perspective does. I know we said I'll let you just kind of explain, because I know you literally moved across country for this.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So yes,
Yep.
please tell them about the recordings of the launches.
Yeah. So for a while there, for the last, okay, I'll start over. So as I was saying, I had been touring as a musician with my band Twin Limb for over 4.5 years straight, something like that. And then while I was on stage one night, I just had this epiphany. Oh my God, I want to make a show. I want to make a live experience, a beautiful production that takes people on a journey, like a cosmic journey. And I didn't really know what this meant, but I was like, I'm going to take space on tour. And so I had this kind of like, silly idea, but I went all in on it, and I left and I went to Florida because I thought, I can't do any of this unless I see a rocket launch. I've got to at least be there in person. So I saw my first rocket launch in 2018, and I just so happened to be standing shoulder to shoulder between Buzz Aldrin, guy who walked on the moon, and Bill Nye the Science Guy, who was my boss at the time. And it was epic. It was the Falcon Heavy demo launch, which was that famous launch that sent Elon's Tesla Roadster into space. Mm-hmm. And to see that happen and the two boosters so beautifully land like little ballerinas, I was in awe not only of what humans are capable of, but I had this experience that was transformational for me. I had like my life flash before my eyes. I thought about, like, I used to be homeless as a teenager. How did I get here? I dropped out of high school. I have no education. How am I standing between these two heroes? How am I here at the forefront of the future in the making? And so it was a big moment for me. And I just remember, like, someone handed me a champagne glass and I was like dazed. And I just went over to a step and I sat down and I cried and I thought about, what did I just experience? How can I share that with people? Because I'm writing a book about the overview effect, which is that transformational thing that happens to astronauts when they go to space. They come back totally changed. Humanitarians, they want to make everything better. They want to share their experience with the world. And I felt like I had like a small version of that. And I thought, oh my God, I've been wondering how I could transfer that to others. But if people can experience this, maybe, it's a small way to get to some bigger experience like that. Although for me, it was huge. And so I kept thinking, how can I share this? How can I bring people to this conversation? Because it's more than just the moment of the experience. For me, space exploration really is something that shifts our perspective, because we begin to think about time in new ways. We begin to think about humanity and our place in the universe. Time and space, the scales just, grow. Right. And so I thought about how I could share this, how I could translate this, how I could bring more people to these experiences. And just a couple months later, as I'm thinking through how I want to make the show and take this thing on tour, I meet my partner, Ryan. Ryan Chilinsky is an amazing filmmaker, cinematographer, and rocket launch photographer. He and I got together. We immediately fell madly in love. We formed Cosmic Perspective.
I was going to say he's correct, right?
Hey, nice going there on the Consider the Cosmos. We're most active on Twitter, Consider Cosmos, but follow us anywhere. And then, so for the last 3 years, when we both met, we'd been living in a camper, each of us individually. We were that crazy. We both had weird space campers. So we got into one camper. I sold.
can understand, you were living in the camper, so you could be as close to actual
rocket
launch
launches.
as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay, just so that everyone can kind of follow
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, thank you for clarifying. So we would basically just be on the move so that we could go to Vandenberg for a rocket launch in California. We could go to Wallops for a rocket launch there in Virginia. We would go to Cape Canaveral, Florida for rocket launches there. We were just chasing rockets literally around the country. And then we would do presentations at places like Burning Man or in any little town on the way to and from all these places. So that was what I was so most in love with doing, was taking this thing on tour to planetariums where I could kind of, gift this beautiful immersive show to people. And that's where the gloves came in. I wanted to control the visuals and the sounds and do the soundtrack to our shows with the gloves. But then the pandemic hit, and we had to really shift our thinking. And so we settled down in Cape Canaveral for the last year. We were able to capture all of the launches. We've documented over 70 rocket launches at this point. We always live stream. Now we actually partner with Everyday Astronaut. So we're a part of the crew that supports those live streams. And then we make, films from that. And so about in December of last year, Starship was about to make its first super historic flight. This is the flight where Starship launched and for the first time ever went to a high altitude and then did this super experimental thing that's never been done in rocket history, which is to do a belly flop. So it goes up and then comes down, engines are off, belly flops like this, all the way down through the atmosphere to save fuel. And then at the end, ignites its engines, goes upright, and lands. Of course, it exploded every single time until hopefully the next flight. But what happened in December was it was so awe-inspiring. I had seen over 70 rocket launches up close, and I never felt the way that I did during that launch. It was like, wow, this is real spaceflight history making. We have to be here. And so immediately, like crazy people, we shifted our lives and found a place. But that was right at the same time that I was going to high seas for my analog astronaut mission. So it was crazy timing. And I left for Hawaii and then came back and immediately just plopped myself down here and have been kind of going cross country to bring the last bits of items back. Wow. But yeah, that's why I'm here.
And this year, it's like, it's not even.
Yeah. It's been crazy. I can't wait to settle into this place and really dive in with the gloves and just make albums. I've really missed making albums. And so that's kind of the next thing on the docket.
Nice. Let me ask you this. And so when you're saying that when you're creating these films, is that where you're doing some of your scoring, or are you doing other types of scoring for other films? Or are you mainly focusing on these films right now?
Yeah, I've actually been making my own scores, and I know that I gave you some copy about star travel and film scoring. Mm-hmm. That's not something I've released yet to the public, but it's coming soon. Okay. And I'm super excited. A lot of the scoring that I've done has been for projects that honestly were about to get into motion right when the pandemic hit. So, for example, I've been working with an orchestra on an overview effects show where we use our films, our visuals, to kind of take a journey to space and then tell the astronaut story and bring in some of my astronaut interviews. And we were going to do some in-person stuff with astronauts, but then of course things changed and I had to kind of shift my focus a little bit. And since then I've been trying to figure it out, like how do I want to present this to people digitally? It's hard. It's really hard. I think the close.
Oh, wait.
Well, to me,
go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. I think to me, what I'm so intrigued by is the magic of humans experiencing awe together, like a group of humans experiencing awe at the same time. I really really wanted to play with that. Like having been on stage and seeing thousands of people out there experiencing awe together is a transformational thing. So I had to change the way that I thought about it, and thinking about the individual person who's sitting alone somewhere, you know, on a YouTube, like, you know, folks that might be watching this, watching YouTube from the comfort of their home, and how can I make them feel connected in that moment? And so I've been kind of just thinking about how to take our live streams to the next level.
I wonder if you could take some of these films, because I know that you have been interviewing astronauts and scientists and other engineers that are working on these projects and launches, to schools. You know, a lot of schools are still doing virtual learning, you know, so I think that could be kind of a refreshing like twist to their science over Zoom, you know, to watch a video.
Oh my gosh.
Interviews and these videos of actual launch experience.
Totally.
Yeah, just
that's a really good point.
Throwing it out, just an idea.
Totally. I think it was sometime in the late fall, someone invited me to come speak to a classroom of teenagers, and I'd never done that before, and it really ignited something in me. I really enjoyed it because I feel like, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for teenagers because I had such a difficult such a difficult time during my teen years. And so I feel like I can relate to them well, you know, and I can get on that level. And it was cool to be able to talk to them about my experience as a teen, and then where dude, this too shall pass is the message. Like any hard thing that you're going through, it's going to feel like it's forever right now, but eventually, if you continue to chase your dreams and work really hard, and it's not always going to be easy, but it's always worth trying, you could end up chasing, like being at the forefront of history in the making. That's where I feel like I am. I'm exactly where I want to be, and I would never have imagined that back then. So I really enjoyed talking and connecting with those teens, and I did showcase some of my film work. And I'm sorry, I didn't answer the question very well. We are working on a film.
Okay.
And
there's another while you're after you're done answering that. I'm not sure. Are you able to see when we pop up the question? And I'm not sure because I know you're.
I can. I'm so sorry. I'll pay more attention now.
Popped one up right now. Before, there were just people making comments because they're thank you for being here. They're enjoying the show, and they're talking to each other too and sharing information. Synth Addict, thank you so much for your comments. But there's actually a question by Synth Addict this time.
Cool. I have never heard of Music from the Galaxies, but now I'm very intrigued and excited to learn more. And actually, Space Racer and I are part of a group of, well, and you are part of a group of really cool artists that we all consider ourselves space artists. And I've been trying to keep a roster and update that roster. So I'm definitely going to add Fiorella Trovarsi to the list and have a listen. Thank you for telling me.
Very cool. And just to say again, so everybody can understand, say what date Yuri's Night is again. I believe it's the 10th, but you correct me if I'm wrong. And then just maybe explain what Yuri's Night is, just for those who are not familiar with what it is. If you don't mind, since we're talking about
I don't mind. I never mind. No, I'm part of the Yuri's Night team. I'm a huge fan. It actually typically happens on my birthday. So it's not happening on my birthday this year because it has to happen on a Saturday. But Yuri's Night is the celebration of the first human that ever went to space. It's basically like the coolest nerd party in the universe. So Yuri Gagarin launched to space on April.
Right crowd right now, by the way. There's a bunch of cool synth nerds here, modular synth nerds.
I figured this was the right place to be. Yeah. So Yuri's Night is great. This year marks the 20th Yuri's Night celebration. It is, I believe it's the 60th anniversary, or is it the 50th anniversary? No, I think it's the 60th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's first flight, right, 1961. And then it is also an anniversary of the first shuttle flight. So it's like this crazy, awesome, like monumental version of Yuri's Night, which has been happening for the last 20 years. And it really it's a mixture of music and art to celebrate human space exploration. And it's co-founded by Loretta Whitesides, who's just a beautiful human who really loves to talk about how space exploration shifts our perspective, and it makes those of us who really integrate what we learn from space exploration into better human beings if we care to do so. And so she really makes it very meaningful. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it. So if you go to yurisnight.net, April 10th, it will be a global free live stream and several hours of fun.
Great. We'll drop it right now in the chat.
Cool.
So people can find it. And I'll, like I said before, I'll make sure that it's updated in the description with all these links. I do have some of your links in there, but I'll definitely drop Yuri's Night and some of the other links. Yes. We are approaching the top of the hour, and I just again want to check in with the chat and thank them again for, and hopefully you're enjoying the show. And please, if you do have any last minute questions, please drop them in the chat so we can get MaryLiz to answer them. And yeah, just MaryLiz, thank you so much for being here. I know, we talk about the gloves, but I really appreciate you sharing your story and your mission and everything that you're doing with my viewers here. This is a great group of people. They're always, exploring through modular and synthesis, and I definitely feel like there's this parallel between, the modular, the synthesis, the hardware, and incorporating it with space. And we're making these plunderphonic, create weird and creative noises. Yes, so I definitely feel like we're talking to the right group of people.
The whole thing looks like a spaceship all the time, so I totally see the parallel. I will say I'm excited to see how you use the gloves specifically, and I actually do control hardware sometimes with my gloves. So I've got a voice touch 2 that I like to use to, I'll yank up the harmonies, or I'll, whatever. I'll do something fun with the effects, all with the gloves. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do even with hardware that people don't typically think about.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely using it with my modular.
Nice. Oh, I can't wait to see. So excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
And I like the idea
in our Discord too, our Mimu Discord too, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and last question from me is: have you started your Patreon? You were talking about doing some like really cool reward levels where you would be teaching more hands-on about Ableton and such.
Yes, I actually did. I started that Modulation Sound Lab. We kicked it off.
Okay.
When I kicked it off in February, it's been going great. We have
Nice.
small Zoom groups. We have one-on-ones. Some people signed up for some one-on-ones as well. But yeah, it's just it's nice because the group is just a variation of people that are like have been using modular to years, to beginners, and then the cross is some people that have never used a DAW at all, and then advanced users of the DAW. And so we're just it's great. Like, just we're doing a bunch of different things in the Zoom group, so I'm very excited about it. And now that I've revealed that I have this glove, because I've only told like maybe a couple people about this glove, because I've on my setup and everything. So maybe I'll show it now in the Patreon groups now that I.
Oh my God, I can't wait! I'm so sorry if I broke the news early.
But yeah, no. So I'm super excited. I'm so happy that you came on the show. I really appreciate it, and I've been really looking forward to having you on. And yeah, and I wanted to say hi also to my regular viewers. Thank you all for being out there and hanging with us tonight. Um, Mary Liz, do you have anything else that you want to say to anyone, or before we close out the show?
No, I'll just say I'm all in for Ham's night. I think you're right. We need to celebrate the brave uh, first non-human to go to space. But no, I just want to thank you so much, and I really appreciate you working through my technical difficulties today. I've been
Oh,
so
of course.
excited about this, like so looking forward to this. So I'm really glad that we were able to make it work,
Yes.
and I can't wait for. I'm going to join your community. Really, it's almost like flabbergasting to be invited to such a thing because I know I have so much to learn. So I really want to show up to places and just soak it all in. These are powerful tools of creation. It actually opens up an entire world of possibility, which is the hardest part. So
Yeah, it's like,
I'm
what
excited
do
to
I
push it.
do? It's like in the process of the mappings, I'm just like, I could do this or I could map this. So yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out. It's like looking a few steps ahead because you know what I mean. Like mapping in that moment, but it's just like looking a few steps ahead of what you would have to do for each gesture to make sure.
Right.
That's sort of, yes, where my thoughts are at with it right now. But
I've
um,
been really trying to think about like how, like before I even think about sounds or anything, it's like, how do I want to dance? How do I want to move my body around? How do I want to keep it simple when I'm doing a loop? And so you'll see, I try to just, even though I'm switching instruments, I use the same gestures. I'll switch scenes or whatever, and I'll just change my sounds, but the gestures are the same. That way, I kind of always know that's fun to play with. And then, like, to make it really complex by combining gestures from two different hands, it just infinite possibilities. So yeah, I think you're going to really, really love exploring and then learning from the other glovers how they do it because everybody has a totally different style. So,
yes, I've been watching various artists. I've recently discovered, and I may say her name wrong, but I think it's Synth.
Synthestruct.
Thank you. And she's
Yeah,
also a healer.
Synthestruct gingerly.
Yes, awesome. Like, yeah, and I messaged her too, and yeah, she's doing some great things with it. Thank you for saying that because her name just slipped my mind. But she's also a coder too. We don't need to go down that road, but anyway, I am super
She's
excited to
awesome.
be in this community in general. But again, I want to thank everyone for being here on Faders Up. Mary Liz, sit tight. Don't disconnect yet. But thank you to all the viewers. Hopefully you had a good night, enjoyed the show, and I just want to let everyone know two things. Um, I will put your performance up and repost that as well on my channel tomorrow. So not only will it be in this stream, but it'll also be a standalone video on my page. And
Oh,
I
cool.
do, yes. So yeah, so people can go back and watch, and if you actually want to send me any notes or anything that you'd like for me to add to the description, so people can, when they watch it, they can go back and kind of read some tips or tricks, that would be great too.
Sure.
And just a couple things, just little housekeeping things I want to say. My next guest next month, I'm super excited about, and I think he was in the chat earlier. John O. Wells. He's one of our core SoCal Synth Society members. I love him. He's a brother, and I can't wait for him to be on. So he is my next guest for April, everyone. So just mark your calendars. Third Thursday of the month, John O. Wells. And we do have some other synth events coming up. Colorado Synth Society has an event on the 28th. And I believe Twitch, there's some synth shows for NIMS, which is the New York Modular Synth Society, is happening on Saturday. And I'm also playing a show on Saturday on Twitch. And let's give a shout out to our Earth Modular Society people. It's a 24/7 modular stream. You should definitely get on that Discord, Mary Liz,
Yeah.
because it's like a live stream that you go on and perform live, and there's always different artists, and it's awesome. And they're a great community to be linked up with, and I'm sure they would love to see you have a performance on there live. And it's sort of very like, you can just decide, like, you know what, I want to perform live for a little while. And
Cool.
it's awesome. But I'm actually doing that tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I wrote a small this patch that I did for Sarah Bell Reed's class this past week, and I thought, why not share it before I tear it apart? So
I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
play it tomorrow
Awesome.
night at 7. All right, so awesome. Yes, Alpha Stair. Shout out to EMS. Woo! Thank you, everyone, for being here, and have a fantastic night. And see you next month on Faders Up.
Thank you.